Pretend you don't know us, my mother whispered, pressing a black staff shirt into my hands 2 hours before the first guest arrived. Tonight's guests are all elite. Your father is becoming VP. I held the shirt against my chest. Polyester. The wrong size. The collar tag scratched my neck before I even put it on. So, what should I tell people if they ask who I am? My mother, Jeanette Quinn, smoothed the front of her Bordeaux cocktail dress and checked her reflection in the venue bathroom mirror. Tell them you're a friend of the family. Or, better yet, don't say anything at all. I understand, I said. I'll serve. Her face softened with relief, the same expression she wore every time I made things easy for her. Good girl. I knew you'd understand. And that's how I, Melisa Quinn, 28 years old, founder of a brand strategy agency that had just closed a $2 million contract, ended up carrying a tray of arugula salad across a rooftop in downtown Austin, while my father gave his promotion speech to 300 people who had no idea I existed. The lemon vinaigrette was warm under my palms. String lights crisscrossed the rooftop above me, casting that golden light event planners charge extra for. The March air carried just enough chill to make me grateful for long sleeves, though the polyester staff shirt trapped heat against my ribs. On stage, my father gripped the microphone. Kirk Quinn, 55, VP of Marketing at Crossfield Industries as of tonight. 25 years in the business. This company took a chance on me, Kirk said, voice smooth with that particular warmth he saved for audiences. I had a name for it, the specific arrangement of his face when he performed. Lips curved just enough, eyes crinkled, chin lifted. Every muscle, deliberate. I walked between tables with my tray. Nobody looked at me. I passed the VIP table, and Jeanette's gaze swept right through me. The way you look through a window, without seeing the glass. The only person who noticed me was a woman at the department table. Mid-30s, sharp bob, a cocktail in her hand that she wasn't drinking. She watched me serve, then looked at Kirk on stage, then back at me. Her eyebrows pulled together for just a second, before she turned away. I didn't know her name yet. I would by Monday morning. My fingers had ink stains from the client deck I'd finished that morning. Marker residue caught under my thumbnail, the only trace of my real life on my body tonight. Everything else belonged to the version of me my parents had constructed for the evening. I set a salad plate in front of a man at the nearest table. He didn't look up. "Excuse me," a voice said from behind me. "Could I get another plate?" I turned. The man standing there was mid-50s, graying at the temples, wearing a charcoal vest with no tie. His badge read, Harlan Cross, CEO. He held a cocktail glass, but he wasn't looking at the salad. He was looking at my face. Something shifted behind his eyes. The polite expression stalled, replaced by the slow blink of a person retrieving a memory they can't quite place. "I'm sorry," Harlan Cross said. "This is going to sound strange. Have we met before?" "I don't think so, sir. More salad?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Miss Melisa? M. Quinn? Luma Strategy?" The tray dipped in my hands. One plate slid toward the edge before I steadied it. "We've been trying to reach you all week," Cross said. "Your phone went to voicemail. Email bounced. I didn't expect to find you here, serving salad. 2 weeks ago, I had pitched Harlan Cross from my studio. Laptop propped on a stack of art books. Luma Strategy. My agency. Built under a trade name, so my parents wouldn't find it." Cross set his cocktail glass down on the buffet table. The ice clinked against the rim with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence. "The board meeting is Monday," he said. "We need Luma's founder to present the brand transformation proposal in person. $2 million engagement. I brought the pitch deck tonight to show my marketing leadership team." He paused. "Kirk Quinn's team." The name landed between us. Cross looked toward the stage where Kirk was stepping down, shaking the CFO's hand, company smile at full power. Then Cross looked at me in my staff shirt, with my unnamed badge and my tray of warm salad. "Quinn," he repeated, slower this time. "You're related to Kirk Quinn. He's my father." Cross absorbed this, the way a man absorbs a number that doesn't add up on a balance sheet. Quiet, steady, already running calculations. "Your father is my new VP of marketing," he said. "And you founded the agency we just hired for a $2 million contract." He waited one beat. "Does he know?" "He doesn't know I own an agency. He thinks I freelance. He thinks freelance means I draw on my laptop between naps." Cross opened his briefcase on the buffet table, right between the breadbasket and the water pitcher. He pulled out a printed pitch deck, the cover page reading Luma Strategy in the font I'd chosen 3 years ago when I filed the trademark. Then he pulled out a second folder, Kirk's internal Q4 campaign presentation for Crossfield. He placed them side by side on the white tablecloth. I stared. Anyone with working eyes could see it. The layout, the color palette, the typography hierarchy, the messaging framework. Kirk had changed the font from Montserrat to Roboto. He'd swapped the brand colors to Crossfield's blue. Every structural decision, every composition, choice, every creative instinct that made the campaign work was mine. He'd changed the skin and kept the skeleton. "I've been looking at these for 2 weeks, Cross said, and his voice had shifted. Not the friendly CEO chatting with an event server. The man who signed termination letters. I told myself it was coincidence. Then I pulled the last 2 campaign decks your father submitted. He tapped the folders. "It's not coincidence, is it?" From the stage, microphone feedback squealed for half a second before the audio tech caught it. Kirk's voice boomed through the speakers. "And I'd like to thank Harlan Cross for believing in our vision." Cross stood at the buffet table, my pitch deck in his left hand, and did not applaud. He led me to a quiet corner of the rooftop, behind a row of potted palms where the string lights didn't reach. The gala noise faded to a murmur. From here I could see the downtown Austin skyline, Congress Avenue Bridge lit up in the distance, the bats probably streaming out beneath it like they did every March evening, oblivious to everything happening on this rooftop. "I need to understand what I'm looking at," Cross said. "Did your father have access to your work?" "I brought my laptop home every Christmas. Every Thanksgiving." The words came slowly, each one pulling something loose inside my chest. "Mom always asked me to work in the living room so she could see me. She'd say, 'Set up at the coffee table. I want to watch you work. It makes me happy.'" I stopped mid-sentence, because the rest of the sentence contained a truth I wasn't ready to say out loud. "Stay an extra day, honey. Go to lunch with your old friend Carly. I'll clean up here. Leave your laptop. You don't need it at the restaurant." How many Christmases? How many Thanksgivings? Every time Jeanette kept me longer, kept me close, kept my laptop open on the living room table while she sent me out the door. Kirk was upstairs with his phone, photographing my screen. My mother hadn't just allowed it. She'd arranged it. Every time she said stay, she meant so he can take. 3 campaigns in 18 months, Cross said, flipping through the folders. All submitted to our internal system within 2 weeks of a holiday. I don't have hard proof for the first 2 yet, only visual pattern matching. But this third one, the Q4 deck, is a near duplicate of your Luma proposal. What happens now? My voice came out steadier than anything inside me. Monday morning. My office, 8 a.m. Cross tucked the folders back into his briefcase and clicked it shut. "Bring your original files. Figma, Behance. Anything with timestamps and creation dates. I need to see the full picture before I make a decision about my new vice president." He straightened, adjusted his vest, and walked back toward the gala lights without another word. I stood alone behind the potted palms. The Austin skyline glittered ahead of me, and behind me, through the greenery, I could hear my father laughing at something the CFO said. That full, generous, company laugh. I made it to my car in the parking garage before my hands started shaking. Sat in the driver's seat with the engine off, gripping the steering wheel even though I wasn't going anywhere. 2 paths. Monday meeting with Cross. Original files on the table. And a process begins that ends with my father under investigation. Or walk away. Let Cross handle it without me. Pretend I never heard my own pitch deck described as my father's vision. Except walking away wasn't really walking away. Cross had the pitch decks. His legal team would connect Luma Strategy to M. Quinn, to Melisa Quinn, whether I showed up Monday or not. My agency would be pulled into the investigation either way. The only choice was whether I walked in on my own or got summoned. I opened Figma on my phone and scrolled through my portfolio, 3 years of projects. Every deck was a 6 a.m. alarm and a cold cup of coffee and a client call where I pitched like my rent depended on it, because most months it did. Then I opened Instagram. Jeanette's page. The newest post was already up. Kirk on stage, microphone in hand, string lights behind him. The caption read, "So proud of this man. 25 years of brilliance. The best is yet to come." 214 likes. 12 comments. Mostly heart emojis. And congratulations from women in Jeanette's book club. My phone rang, Jeanette's name bright on the screen, and I let it go to voicemail. Her voicemail was bright and satisfied. "Thanks so much for helping tonight. Oh, and Thanksgiving. Can you come early this year? I want to get a start on the pecan pie." Thanksgiving. The laptop on the living room coffee table. The pecan pie in the oven. Jeanette saying stay, and Kirk upstairs photographing my screen. I opened my messages and typed a text to a number from the Crossfield staff directory. "Rose Sutton, this is Melisa Quinn, Kirk Quinn's daughter. I think we need to talk." I pressed send, started the engine, and drove home. Act Ia. "The Figma files," Rose Sutton replied at 6:14 the next morning. No greeting. No questions about why Kirk Quinn's daughter had texted her out of nowhere on a Saturday night. Just an address, a time, and 4 words. "I'll bring my laptop." The coffee shop on South Congress opened early for the freelancers. I arrived 20 minutes early, with 3 years of evidence I hadn't known. Was evidence until 48 hours ago. Roe walked in at exactly 7. Sharp bob, leather jacket, laptop bag slung over one shoulder like a weapon she'd been waiting for permission to use. She opened her computer before she said hello. 2 years ago, Rose said, turning her screen toward me. I pitched a complete rebrand for the manufacturing division. New visual identity, new messaging framework, new color system. 3 months of work. Kirk sat through the whole presentation, nodded, took notes, and told me afterward that it wasn't quite there. She clicked to a second tab. 3 months later, his version went live. Same structure, same color logic, different fonts. "Let me guess," I said. "Roboto." Rose's hand stilled on the trackpad. The look she gave me was sharp, searching. The look of a woman who had spent 2 years carrying a suspicion she couldn't prove, and had just heard someone else name it out loud. "How did you know that?" "Because that's what he did to mine. It's the only thing he changes. He thinks swapping the typeface makes it original." Ro closed her eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When she opened them, something had shifted. The caution was gone. In its place was the focused, almost hungry expression of a person who has just been handed the missing piece of a puzzle that has kept them up at night. She turned her laptop fully toward me and walked me through what she'd brought. Server upload records from Crossfield's internal system, showing the date and time Kirk had submitted each of his 3 major campaign decks over the past 18 months. Metadata from the files themselves, including the creation dates embedded in the digital properties. And her own original pitch deck from 2 years ago, the one Kirk had told her wasn't quite there, sitting in a folder marked Archive on the company server, untouched since the day she'd been told to move on. I opened my Figma files, creation dates 4 to 6 months before Kirk's uploads, then Behance, where I'd published 2 concepts publicly with verifiable dates, then client invoices proving deployment before Kirk ever touched them. Roe lined up the dates in 3 columns, and every single one of Kirk's uploads fell within 2 weeks of a family visit. "Christmas 23, Roe said, reading off her screen. "Christmas 24. Thanksgiving 24. She looked up at me. "He went shopping in your portfolio every time you came home for the holidays." "My mom made it easy," I said, and the sentence came out flat, factual, stripped of everything it actually contained. She always asked me to work in the living room. "Set up your laptop on the coffee table, honey. I like watching you work." Then she'd send me out for lunch or errands, and I'd come back and everything would be exactly where I left it. Ro didn't say anything for a long moment. She picked up her coffee, took a slow sip, and set it down. "I need you to understand something," Ro said. "I'm not doing this because I'm nice. 2 years ago, Kirk took my best work, repackaged it with a different font, and presented it to the executive team as his own. I couldn't prove it. I had no external originals, no timestamps that predated his. I swallowed it and kept working because I needed the job." She met my eyes across the table. "You have what I didn't. You have proof, and I'm helping you because he took something from me too. And this is the only way I'll ever get it back." No warmth in her voice. Just the clean pragmatism of a woman who had been waiting for a weapon. I respected that more than sympathy, because timestamps would hold up in a meeting with the CEO, and sympathy would not. Harlan Cross's corner office had carpet so thick my footsteps made no sound. Cross poured coffee from a French press without asking, set a mug in front of me and one for Ro. On Saturday, I had been event staff. This morning, the CEO was pouring me coffee. "Walk me through it," Cross said. I opened my laptop and laid it out the way I would for any client presentation, because presenting a clear narrative from messy data was my profession, even if my father thought it was doodling. Figma timestamps, Behance publication dates, client invoices proving deployment before Kirk ever submitted. Ro followed with server records and file metadata. Cross leaned forward, reading the dates across both monitors. "Christmas 23, Cross said quietly. "Christmas 24, Thanksgiving 24, 3 campaigns, 3 visits. Home." "He had access to my laptop every time," I said. "My mother made sure of it." Cross sat back. The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioning cycling through the vents above us, a low mechanical hum that seemed to press the silence down harder. He picked up a pen from his desk, turned it between his fingers once, and set it down. "What your father did constitutes copyright infringement under federal law," Cross said. "This company used that material in paid campaigns for clients. We have a legal and fiduciary obligation to the board. If those clients discover their campaigns were built on stolen intellectual property, Crossfield's liability exposure is significant." The word infringement hung in the air. Hearing it directed at the man who taught me to hold a pencil, something in my chest folded in on itself. "Internal IP audit," Cross said. "If confirmed, Kirk faces termination, and the company settles with your agency for unauthorized use." He paused. "I'd strongly recommend you tell your parents before legal does." I stood up. My legs held, but only just. In my car afterward, Kirk's voicemail was warm and easy. "Hey, kiddo. I'm VP now. Maybe I could put in a word for you. A real job, benefits, the whole deal. Think about it. Love you. A real job." He had built his promotion on my portfolio, and his first instinct was to offer me an entry-level position at the company where he'd stolen my work. Jeanette texted, "Thanksgiving? Come early?" The laptop on the coffee table. The pecan pie in the oven. The whole pattern asking to repeat itself. I typed a reply. "Mom, I think we need to talk. Can I come by Wednesday evening?" "Of course, honey. I'll make pot roast." Wednesday. I would tell them before the lawyers did. I owed them that much, or maybe I owed myself that much. I started the engine and drove out into Monday morning Austin. Act EIB. The pot roast. The Quinn family home in Cedar Park smelled exactly the way it had smelled for every important evening of my life. Pot roast in the Dutch oven. Rosemary and garlic and that particular sweetness of carrots that have been braising since early afternoon. Jeanette's signature. She made pot roast for birthdays, promotions, holidays, and apparently for the evening her daughter was going to tell her that an intellectual property investigation was about to dismantle her husband's career. I stood on the front porch Wednesday evening with my laptop bag over my shoulder and my car keys still in my hand, trying to make my legs carry me through a door I had walked through 1,000 times. The porch light was on. It was always on when Jeanette expected company. She treated every family dinner like an event to be produced, right down to the lighting. Inside, the dining table was set for 3. The fourth chair, the one that used to belong to my brother Wade, before he moved to Dallas, sat empty against the wall. Jeanette had folded the napkins into triangles, a skill she had taught me when I was 12, pressing the creases flat with the side of her hand and telling me that presentation was everything. The irony of that lesson had not dulled with age. Kirk sat at the head of the table in a polo shirt and khakis. Relaxed, comfortable. A glass of red wine already half empty. He looked like a man settling into the best chapter of his life. VP of marketing with a corner office and a new team to build. The promotion speech still ringing in his ears from Saturday night. He had no idea that the woman who made that promotion possible was about to sit down across from him and show him exactly how she'd done it. I set my laptop on the kitchen counter. Not hidden. Right there. This time, I chose where it sat. Dinner proceeded normally, Kirk talking about the new office, while Jeanette listened. I waited until dessert, then pushed my pie plate aside. Dad, I have something to show you. I walked to the counter, opened my laptop, and turned it so the screen faced the table. My Luma strategy portfolio filled the display. The Q4 campaign concept I had designed in August, the one with the asymmetric grid layout and the warm amber color palette, and the messaging framework I had built from 3 weeks of brand research. Kirk leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. His expression was the one he wore whenever I mentioned my work. A patient, slightly amused tolerance, the way you'd watch a child show you a crayon drawing they were very proud of. "Oh," he said, "your freelance stuff. Cute." "This is the campaign concept I designed in August," I said. I opened a second tab. Kirk's internal presentation for Crossfield's Q4 initiative, the one Harlan Cross had shown me at the gala, the one that had earned Kirk his promotion. I placed them side by side on the screen. "And this is the one you submitted to Crossfield in November." The two layouts sat next to each other on my 15-inch display. And the resemblance was so precise, so structural, so obviously born from the same creative mind, that the only possible conclusion was either coincidence or theft. Kirk had changed the font from Montserrat to Roboto. He had swapped my amber palette for Crossfield's corporate blue. Everything else, the grid, the hierarchy, the visual logic that made the whole thing breathe, was mine. He had changed the clothes and kept the body. The patient amusement drained from Kirk's face. The company's smile disappeared, not gradually but all at once, like a mask being pulled off. What replaced it was something I had never seen on my father's face in 28 years. Something older and colder than both of those. Fear. "Now hold on," Kirk said, and his voice had dropped into the low, measured register he used when he was about to manage a situation. "Those are completely different. You changed the font to Roboto," I said. "And the brand colors. That's it. That is the only thing you changed." "I was inspired by your general direction." "Sure. But I took a raw concept and built an actual campaign with a $300,000 budget and a 12-week. Dad, 3 campaigns, 3 Christmas visits, same pattern." Kirk stood. His chair scraped the hardwood. He placed both hands flat on the table and leaned toward me. "You listen to me. I have been in this industry for 25 years. I took your sketches and turned them into something a Fortune 500 company could actually use. There is a difference between doodling on a screen and running a real campaign. The CEO knows." The kitchen went crushingly silent. Jeanette's fork touched her plate with a small clink. "What did you say?" Harlan Cross recognized me at the gala on Saturday night. He signed a $2 million contract with my agency 2 weeks ago. He brought the pitch deck to the event. He put your submission next to mine. I kept my voice level, each sentence laid down like a tile on a floor. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Kirk turned to Jeanette. "You said no one would find out." "Not aimed at me." "At her." Kirk had turned to my mother, and the words were a complaint aimed at his co-conspirator because her plan had failed. Jeanette's face went white. "Kirk, don't. You told me she'd never." Kirk stopped. He looked at me, then at Jeanette, then back at me, and the sentence he had started hung, unfinished in the air. But it didn't need finishing. The shape of it was already complete. You told me she would never find out. You told me it was safe. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time Jeanette said, "Stay another day, honey, I'll make pecan pie." And every time she said, "Set up your laptop in the living room. I love watching you work." And every time she said, "Go have lunch with Carly, leave your laptop here. You don't need it at the restaurant." Every single one of those moments, every warm maternal gesture, every pot roast dinner, and triangular napkin fold, collapsed into a single shape. A system, a routine designed not to keep me close, but to keep me still. I closed the laptop. I came here to tell you before legal does. That's the only courtesy I have left. Jeanette caught me at the front door. "Melisa, you cannot do this. This is your family." "Mom, you held me there so he could copy me." I walked out into the Cedar Park night and sat in my car, watching the kitchen window where two silhouettes argued about a disaster they had built together. The next 3 days happened in fragments. My apartment in East Austin had never been so quiet. I turned off the music I usually worked to, turned off the true crime podcast I usually fell asleep to, turned off everything until the only sound was the ceiling fan clicking on its slow rotation and the occasional car passing on the street below. My laptop sat closed on my desk. I could not open it. Every file inside it was evidence now. Every creative project, a data point in an investigation, and the thought of looking at my own work made my stomach turn in a way I could not untangle. Kirk's voicemails traced the arc of a man realizing his daughter was not going to make this go away. The first was gentle, a misunderstanding. "Call me back." The second was harder. "If you drag the CEO into a family matter, you will destroy me." The third was defensive. "I have built campaigns for 25 years. People are inspired by each other. That is how creativity works." The fourth was 12 seconds of silence. Jeanette texted in escalation, from concern to guilt to quiet threat. The message that landed hardest arrived at 2 in the morning. "If your father loses his job, we lose the house. I am 53 years old, Melisa. What do you think happens to us?" Guilt wrapped around my ribs. I was 28, sitting on my kitchen floor, wondering whether my intellectual property was worth more than my parents' mortgage. Then Roe called. Kirk went to HR. Filed a formal complaint that you and I conspired to steal his work. He's calling it corporate espionage. He's saying you stole from him. Kirk had flipped the narrative completely. His complaint named Roe as the inside source. Legal was investigating both directions now. "If his version holds, I'm done," Roe said. "This needs to work, Melisa, or we're both finished." If Kirk's complaint gained traction, it would touch Luma's strategy. I had gone to dinner to give my parents the courtesy of a warning, and Kirk's response had been to try to end my career. Saturday night, I drove to my studio, the space above the vintage shop on South Congress, with the creaky ceiling fan and the Texas-shaped water stain on the ceiling. I stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by prints, concept boards, mood boards, 10 years of work. I stopped in front of the first print I had ever sold, a logo for a coffee shop on Rainey Street. $200. I was 21. The question came up clean and simple, the way the right question always does when you've burned through every wrong one. What did I actually need? Not from Kirk, not from Jeanette, not from Harlan Cross or the legal team or anyone at Crossfield Industries, but from myself. I had spent 9 years waiting for my father to look at my work and say it was good enough. And even now, even standing in the middle of the evidence of my own career, the reflex was still there. The reflex to measure my work against Kirk's approval, to let his voice be the scale. The trophy at Thanksgiving. Nice trophy. But do you know what real marketing is? I was 19 then, and I was 28 now, and the reflex had not aged at all. It had only learned to hide. If Kirk called me tonight and said your work is brilliant, I'm sorry. I'm so proud of you. Would it matter? Would it fill the space? And the answer, the real one, the one I had been avoiding since Saturday night, was no. Because the validation I was chasing could only mean something if it came freely. And it never had. And it never would. And the longer I stood at his door, waiting for him to open it, the longer I stood with my back to everything I had built on my own. I did not need Kirk Quinn to tell me I was good enough. I needed to stop needing Kirk Quinn to tell me I was good enough. Those were two completely different sentences, and the distance between them was the entire length of the life I'd been living wrong. But here was the other thing, the thing that separated what I was about to do from revenge. I did not need Kirk destroyed. I did not need Jeanette humiliated. I needed the truth on the table, visible, undeniable, so that everyone involved could make their choices with open eyes. Protect Roe, who had risked her career on my evidence. Protect Luma Strategy, which was mine and had always been mine. Present the facts to Cross, and let the system do what systems do. And leave the door open, not wide, not welcoming, but open, in case Kirk and Jeanette ever found the courage to walk through it as the people they actually were, instead of the people they'd been performing as. I turned off the studio lights, locked the door, and drove home with a plan that had nothing to do with making my father pay and everything to do with making sure the truth could stand on its own 2 feet. Monday morning was 4 days away. I would be ready. Actacia, the studio. The conference room on the 14th floor had no windows, just a long table, fluorescent panels, and a hum I could feel in my teeth. Cross at the head of the table, legal counsel to his left, HR to his right, Row 2 chairs from me, face composed in careful blankness. Kirk arrived 4 minutes late in his charcoal suit, company smile on, leather folio under his arm like a shield. He tried to open with his HR complaint against Roe. Legal counsel cut him short. We will address your complaint in due course. First, we review the evidence. I opened my laptop with steady hands, rehearsed 6 times over the weekend. Figma timestamps, Behance publication dates, client invoices. Row followed with server records and a timeline graphic showing the gap between my originals and Kirk's uploads, 4 to 6 months. Everyone landing within 2 weeks of a family holiday. The legal counsel studied the timeline for a long moment, then turned to Kirk. Mr. Quinn, can you show us your original creative files for these 3 campaigns? Drafts, sketches, brainstorming documents, anything that predates your submission dates to the company server? Kirk opened his leather folio. Inside were printed copies of his campaign decks, the final versions, the ones already on the server. No drafts, no sketches, no brainstorming documents, no evidence of a creative process, because there had been no creative process. There had only been my portfolio open on a living room coffee table, and a man with a phone camera who changed the font to Roboto and called it his own. I've been doing this for 25 years, Kirk said, and his voice had the quality of a line delivered one too many times, worn smooth at the edges. You think I need to steal from a kid with a laptop? Mr. Quinn, the legal counsel replied, not unkindly. The question is not about your experience. It's about these files. Do you have any original creative materials that predate the Luma Strategy originals? Kirk did not answer. The conference room hummed. Cross let the silence sit for exactly the right amount of time, long enough for everyone in the room to hear the shape of it, then spoke. The audit findings are clear. All 3 campaigns submitted by Kirk Quinn match the creative originals produced by Luma Strategy. File metadata confirms the timeline, and Roe Sutton's server records corroborate. Kirk's HR complaint against Roe is dismissed, as server logs show she accessed only internal records that were already available to the legal team, and at no point shared proprietary files with any external party. Kirk's company smile had been fading by degrees since the legal counsel asked about his drafts. Now it was gone entirely, and what remained was something I had never seen on my father's face in any conference room, at any family dinner, at any gala, or promotion speech or Thanksgiving table: exhaustion. The deep, structural exhaustion of a man whose load-bearing wall had just been removed, and who could feel, in real time, the architecture of his professional identity beginning to sag. Cross continued. Kirk, I'm going to give you a choice. You can resign voluntarily, cooperate fully with the IP audit, and this matter stays internal. No public record. Your benefits remain intact through the end of the quarter, or we proceed formally, which means a copyright infringement claim from Luma Strategy, a full board investigation, and a paper trail that becomes part of the public record. The room waited. The fluorescent lights hummed. Rose's fingers rested on her keyboard, motionless. I need to talk to my wife, Kirk said, and his voice was smaller than I had ever heard it. Not a whisper. Something worse. The voice of a man who had run out of the particular kind of energy it takes to perform confidence. Take the week, Cross said. Kirk stood and walked toward the door. As he passed my chair, he slowed. His mouth opened, then closed. He was searching for words the way you search a room for something you set down. Then he walked out, and the door clicked shut. I had expected triumph, or at least vindication. My father had walked past me for the 20th time, but for the first time, not because I was invisible, because he did not know what to say to someone he could finally see. In the hallway, Ro leaned against the wall, eyes red but smiling. 2 years. 2 years I waited for someone to see it. I'm sorry it took a family disaster. Best disasters come with receipts, she exhaled. He's not a monster, you know. He's just mediocre. That was the sharpest truth of the morning. My father was an ordinary man with ordinary talent, who had spent 25 years performing extraordinary confidence. And when the performance failed, he reached into his daughter's portfolio. The cruelty was not in the theft. The cruelty was in how small it was. Cross found me before I left. Luma Strategy contract stands, $2 million, and Rose Sutton will be assuming Kirk's accounts. Outside, my phone buzzed. Jeanette, I know what happened. I am sorry, Melisa. I am truly sorry. No spin. Just sorry. The first message from my mother that did not ask me to be smaller than I was. Kirk resigned the following Friday. Not fired. Resigned. Under the terms Cross had offered. Cooperating with the full audit. Benefits through the quarter. The IP review confirmed all 3 campaigns as infringing. Crossfield reached a settlement with Luma Strategy, compensation for unauthorized use on top of the existing $2 million contract, terms sealed under a non-disclosure agreement. The numbers were fair. The numbers were beside the point. 3 weeks after the gala, Jeanette called. Not texted. Called. And her voice on the phone was different from any version of her voice I had cataloged in 28 years of listening. Not the bright social voice. Not the sweet maternal voice. Not the steel underneath voice. Something raw, unpolished. The voice of a woman speaking without a script for what may have been the first time in years. I want to talk, Jeanette said. Not at the house. Anywhere you choose. I chose my studio. She came on a Thursday afternoon. Alone. Wearing jeans and a cardigan I had never seen before. Her hair pulled back simply. No blowout. No earrings. She stood in the doorway for a moment before I stepped aside to let her in, and I watched her take in the space the way you take in a country you've heard about but never visited. The prints on the walls, the concept boards 3 deep on the work table, the post-it notes in my handwriting, color swatches pinned to cork panels, client logos arranged in a timeline along the south wall. 10 years of work, the physical record of a career she had never seen because she had never come to look. Jeanette stopped in front of the first print I had ever sold. The logo for the coffee shop on Rainey Street, framed in a simple black frame, hung at eye level near the door. She reached out and touched the edge of the frame with her fingertips, gently, the way you touch something you suspect might be fragile. When did you make this? She asked. When I was 21. Why didn't I ever know about it? Because you never asked. The sentence landed in the studio and stayed there. Jeanette did not flinch, did not deflect, did not reach for the sweet voice or the spin. She stood with her hand still touching the frame and absorbed the sentence the way a person absorbs a diagnosis. Fully. with the understanding that arguing will not change the results. I kept you at the house, Jeanette said, and her voice was careful, each word placed deliberately, like someone walking across ice. Every holiday. I said, stay another day. I said, work in the living room. She paused and swallowed. I told myself it was because I missed you. Because I wanted my daughter close. But I made sure your laptop was there. And I made sure you were gone long enough. Another pause. Longer. I turned the time I had with you into an opportunity for your father to take from you. I turned love into a trap. I know that. There was no grand speech after that. No sobbing embrace. No dramatic reconciliation in a swelling orchestra moment. Jeanette stood in my studio surrounded by evidence of what her daughter had built. Evidence she had helped steal. Evidence she was only now seeing for the first time. And she did not try to make it beautiful. She did not try to spin. She just stood there. What do you want now, Mom? I want to learn how to see you, Jeanette said. Really see you. I have never done that. I don't think I knew how. I did not say it's okay, because it wasn't. I did not say I forgive you, because I wasn't there yet, and might not be for a long time. I said, you can start by looking at what's on these walls. Jeanette nodded once and turned to the nearest board. And she looked. Really looked. For the first time, she stood in front of something her daughter had made, and gave it her full, honest, unpracticed attention. 2 more weeks passed. Saturday morning in my studio, working on the Q2 brand refresh for Crossfield. The first project I'd present under my own name. A text from Roe. Settled into Kirk's old office. It's weird. Also, your Q2 deck is brilliant. Don't change slide 7. My phone rang. Kirk's name on the screen. I looked at it for 3 seconds. The way I had looked at it in the Crossfield parking garage on that Monday morning, when his voicemail had offered me a real job. 3 seconds. Then I picked up. Hey, kiddo. His voice was quiet. Not the authoritative baritone. Not the defensive edge. Not the corporate smooth. Quiet in the way a house is quiet after a storm. When everything has been rearranged and you are still figuring out where to step. Hey, Dad. I'm not calling to explain anything. Or justify. I just wanted to tell you that your mother and I saw a counselor this week. First session. A long pause. It was uncomfortable. Good. Uncomfortable is how change starts. Another pause, and I could hear Kirk breathing on the other end. The sound of a man holding a sentence in his mouth and testing its weight before he let it go. I want to see your studio, Kirk said. Not as a marketing guy evaluating your work. Not as someone with 25 years of opinions. As your dad. Just as your dad. Looking at what my daughter built. What my daughter built. 4 words. Not what I inspired. Not what she could do if she went corporate. Not cute. Not an art project. Not sketches and mood boards. What my daughter built. He had placed the verb exactly where it belonged. On me. And whether he had done it on purpose, or whether the counselor had coached him, or whether the sentence had simply arrived intact from some honest corner of himself that had been buried under decades of performance, I could not tell and did not care. The words were correct, and I did not collapse into gratitude or cry. I held the phone and weighed the offer, and measured it against 9 years of trophies set down on tables, 9 years of cute and art project, and real job, 9 years of watching my mother keep me still so my father could take from me. Reconciliation was not a single moment. It was not a phone call or a studio visit or a counselor's appointment. It was a process. Long and uneven and full of setbacks I could already anticipate. Kirk could walk into my studio on Saturday and see my work and say the right things and still, 6 months from now, slip back into the man who believed his daughter's talent was an extension of his own. I could not control that. I could only control whether the door was open. Saturday, I said. 10 a.m. Bring Mom. Saturday came. 10 in the morning. A knock on the studio door. 2 short raps, almost tentative, as if the hand that made them was not sure it had earned the right to knock. I opened the door. Kirk stood on the landing in jeans, and a faded polo. No charcoal suit, no pocket square, no cufflinks. Jeanette beside him in the same simple cardigan, hair pulled back. No performance. They looked smaller without their costumes. They looked like two people standing on a doorstep, asking to be let in. Kirk stepped inside. He looked around the studio slowly, turning in a half circle, his eyes moving from the prints on the walls to the concept boards on the work table, to the client logos arranged along the south wall. He did not comment. He did not evaluate. He did not say anything about fonts or budgets or the difference between doodling and a real campaign. He just looked, the way you look at a place you are seeing for the first time and do not want to miss. He stopped in front of the largest piece on the wall. The Luma strategy rebrand I had done for a tech startup the previous fall. The project I was proudest of, the one with the layered grid system and the warm amber tones that the client's CEO had called the best brand work he'd ever seen. Kirk stood in front of it for a long time. His hands hung at his sides and his mouth was closed. I had turned on only the warm studio lamps, and in that light, the lines around his eyes looked softer, and the gray at his temples looked less like distinguished, and more like tired, and more like honest. Then Kirk turned to me, and he smiled. I had spent 28 years studying my father's company's smile. The one with the precisely calibrated warmth, and the strategically crinkled eyes, and the chin tilted to project confidence. I had mapped every muscle in that smile, cataloged every occasion he deployed it, watched it, charm executives and disarm colleagues, and persuade rooms full of people that Kirk Quinn was exactly the man he claimed to be. I could have drawn it from memory with my eyes closed. This smile was different. This smile did not know what it was doing. The muscles were uncertain, the angles slightly off, as if the machinery behind them had been taken apart and reassembled by someone who was no longer sure of the blueprint. It was clumsy and unbalanced and entirely graceless, and it was the most honest expression I had ever seen on my father's face. "Show me everything," Kirk said. "Not cute, not an art project, not, I could put in a word for you. Just show me everything," spoken in a voice stripped of every layer of performance, standing in a studio he had never visited, looking at work he had stolen because he did not have the words, until now, to simply admire. I walked to the wall near the door, where the first print I had ever sold still hung in its simple black frame. The logo for the coffee shop on Rainey Street. $200 and a free latte every week. I was 21. "This is where it started," I said. Kirk stepped closer to the frame. He looked at it the way Jeanette had looked at it 2 weeks ago, with that careful, searching attention, as if seeing it clearly might teach him something about the years he had missed. Jeanette stood behind him, quiet, watching both of us. I began with the coffee shop logo and worked my way forward. 10 years of projects, year by year, board by board, the small clients and the large ones, the failures and the breakthroughs, the late nights and the early mornings, the entire winding, stubborn, solitary path from a $200 logo to a $2 million contract. Kirk and Jeanette listened without interrupting, without evaluating. They just stood in my studio on a Saturday morning in Austin and let their daughter show them who she was. Nobody set anything down on the table this time.